one in the warp room. So, here we go. Alright, and start time. So, hi, I'm Stump, and this is Crash 2 any percent no-go, or no game over abuse. And the reason that that's a thing is that if you game over, you can carry collected items into other levels, and you get credited with all of them once you finish a level. So that causes most levels to turn into collect the crystal and game over, so and that's much less interesting to watch than actually going through all the levels. And since with this being any percent, pretty much my goal here is to collect all 25 crystals and beat Cortex. And there's a mini boss, not mini boss, boss after every 5. So there's our first one. And you'll see that the movement I'm doing is chaining, slides, and spins. Sliding is the fastest form of movement, but the cooldown on it makes it on average slower if all you do is repeatedly slide. But if you let go of a direction and spin at the end of your slide, you keep the speed throughout it, and then the cooldown expires and you can slide again. So that's the movement technique here. It's called NSSing, neutral slide spin. And just sliding on the ice keeps a slightly faster speed from that. You may have noticed earlier in this level that I did not collect a third Aku Aku mask, and since getting a third one will make you temporarily invincible, that may seem like a slightly odd thing to do, but the NSS technique does not work if you are in that form, so it's generally avoided. And there's our second crystal. Oh, also, I am playing this on the PAL version, and not on NTSC, and that's because in adjusting the physics for PAL, they slightly overcompensated for the reduced frame rate. And as a result, Crash moves a little tiny bit faster and, more importantly, jumps a little bit higher. And that allows getting some things that you can't get in NTSC. So this is one of the 2 levels that has a in-game timer for that. Oh, I need to get that. That results in a gem if you get to the end of the level before the time runs out. But since this is any percent, we don't need the gem, so you'll see me go around it. And that's because of the extra animation that would happen of Crash throwing the gem up in the air here. And now we have the pits, which is similar to the first level. Now, I'm going to be avoiding another mask box here, but oh, that brings up a point that well, since this is any percent, I have the freedom to just not get the mask box. But in 100%, I would have to make sure that I've taken a hit by that point to not have 2 masks, because I have to get the mask box in order to get the gem. There's our crystal.
We have a donation if now's a good time to read it out.
Sure.
Alright, this one is from PD1D, who donated $5.50, who said, "Thank you all for having Salty Baldy and I on. It was unfortunate what happened, but thank you for all the love and support from Trump staff and chat. Put my money towards Jirachi." Will do, friend. Thank you so much for your donation. Going to a great cause.
Yeah, thanks. Alright, now we reach Crash Dash, and this is the first of 3 levels where Crash moves towards the screen and has to run away from something. So that makes it difficult to see where you're going, so that means that it's important to know the layout of the pits. Also, at the end of each of these sections, Crash does a little tumbling animation, which is uninterruptible and loses some time if it happens. But keeping up your chain of neutral slide spins while going through the ending of these generally will prevent that from happening. And we get to some speed boosting pads. There are a lot more of those in the later ones of this type of level. In particular, in the second one, you can get ridiculously far ahead of the boulder. They put some boxes there that you gotta be sufficiently far ahead of the boulder to get the gem. And that will bring us to our first boss, Ripperoo. Now, this boss fight is effectively an auto-scroller, so the pattern's exactly the same every time, and I cannot hit Ripperoo until the pattern finishes, so if there are more donations, this would be a great time for them. Also, touching Ripperoo does not hurt you. You can walk over to the TNTs without anything happening until they explode, but not the nitros. And after each boss fight, Crash does a little victory dance before warping out. Oh, 1 warp room down, 4 more to go. Yeah, this will be another snow level like the second one. And this is structured similarly, where you have a section in this direction, then a side-scrolling section, and then 1 more of these. Jumping the right way there after a slide off of ice will let you keep some of the ice slide speed to the jump. Also, normally... Oh! Normally the spikes would be out and hurt you long before you get there, but neutral slide spinning is fast enough that that's not a problem. just use the mask there to not have to go around that wheel because masks don't really matter in the... Oh, wait. Oh. There are a few mask boxes at the beginning of the next level. Now, this level is actually an odd case in 100% because you have to enter it twice in that. Due to there being an alternate entrance and exit. As a result, any percent is the only category where we go past the Death Route platform with nitros still present in the level. Didn't make that cycle. So that nitro is that I just went past. You only see that in this category. Also, those boxes on that platform that was back there, 100% actually uses a mask to hit one of the mines and get boosted onto it. And now here's our first bear level. One of these Crash rides on Polar, the baby polar bear, and continuously moves forward. This makes this level in particular a great pain when you have to get all the boxes in for 100%. Because many of them are positioned such that very precise movement is required. Oh, that's the checkpoint. We're in YOLO mode. This set of 3 boxes is one of the main, you gotta carefully time your reversal of direction there to hit all 3 of those. Oh, we're through that level. And this will get us to our, to the second boulder chase level. And this introduces electric gates you have to slide under. In this level, those gates are just high enough that if you keep NSSing through them, they don't hurt you. Although, when we see them again in level 15, Unbearable, they are slightly lower and you will get hit by them if you try to NSS underneath. We can't NSS through there because we'd get hit by we'd hit the nitros. And actually, with that speed pad after the nitros, if you hit them, one of them with the with certain timing relative to the boulder exploding one of the nitros, it's possible for the speed pad to launch you in the wrong direction. Yeah, there's a lot of those in this area, and that lets us get so far ahead of the boulder that we can't even see it anymore. And here we have the Eel Deal, a sewer-themed level. Among the things it has are electric eels in pools of water that electrify it on a cycle. Also rolling boulders like that. Alright, that was did a clutch high jump and a zigzag to get over there without landing in it. I'm gonna hit a nitro there because I have the mask to spare. Otherwise I would land in the water and get shocked by it, and the animation from that results in immobilization for a little bit. So taking the hit off the nitro is a little bit faster. I took that hit there. Because I get given a mask at the beginning of this boss fight. So this is Komodo Joe and Komodo Mo. It was a little bit too far to the right when I spun, but he moves to the right of like relative to the direction that you're facing him, so that's why I jumped over. To hit him more directly into the other one. My positioning for that was a little bit off, so he kept bouncing around for longer than usual. I lost a few seconds to that. Now we're in Warp Room 3. And plant food is another water board level. And this one also... Oh! I missed the checkpoint too. Let's... In this game, sometimes these things just happen. There we go. Alright, I'm gonna... The timing is a little different when you're do or don't have the checkpoint, so that's what happened there. Didn't quite make it in between. Yeah, there I wasn't actually trying to do that, but I slid away from a TNT from right next to it. And if you do that position just right relative to the TNT, you can explode the TNT without it hitting you. And there are a few places where 100% takes advantage of this. And since there was that timer there, we carefully go around the yellow gem to not get it. And then we got another sewer level. This one has some of the higher speed versions of those fan obstacles. Also these guys. Try, the blowtorch flame will hit you if you try and go around. Even if you try and go around much wider than you would think. Yeah, with the right positioning, it was possible to slide that scrubber enemy into one of the blades of the higher speed fan and then jump through and not get hit, but I was a little off there. But since there's that mask there, it doesn't really affect things too much. I'm gonna use my 2 masks to not have to deal with these blowtorch guys. And then we get to our next bear level. Well, there actually is another part on the bear that's the final run from a larger bear in Unbearable 2 levels from now. But other than that, this is the last time we'll see the bear here. There's a level in the Hidden Warp Room that's also a bear level that 100% does, but that's not what we're doing. And new things we have are those guys raising and lowering the rows of steel crates, and if you hit them, you fly off the bear and have to restart the last checkpoint. So the way that those interact with speed boosting can sometimes be a little weird. And what I flew over there is an entrance to the secret warp room. That's probably the one that would be expected to be the way that a casual player would discover that warp room. But now we'll see our first ruin level. There's actually an alternate entrance to this in the secret warp room that's, well, at least casually is needed too. Alright. That was sniping the rat into the... into the TNT there, which unfortunately blows up the mask box after that. But I had to stop in the air in just the right place to not fall in while still not getting hit by the TNT explosion. Here is the last of the chase levels, but this time it's not a large snowball that's chasing you. It's a large bear. And those electric barriers are the ones that are a small bit lower than in Crash Crush. So we have to make sure that we're in the slide part of our movement. Ooh, almost went over the bonus entrance there. At any percent, that's would just be a waste of time. When you're close to an edge like that, one of the things that can happen is you can make a jump where you get a little stuck on scenery, and that can cause you to fall into a pit you weren't expecting to. I noticed that happen and was able to save myself from that on that one jump. And I jump at the end there so that I fly a little bit farther here. And now we're all finished with bears. And this will bring us to boss number 3, Tiny the Tiger. And this fight is pretty much the only RNG in this game, because eventually platforms fall and then you gotta have Tiny jump over where one of them fell. So that was one extra hop. Just gotta lead him around and hope that a platform falls in an appropriate spot. The game isn't really giving me anything to work with these platforms that are falling. When it gives me situations like the first 2 drops, there isn't really a good way to make Tiny jump over those. Alright, this one we can work with. Thanks to the glitch high jump. Yeah, Tiny also wasn't really in the right spot for trying to have forced him over one of those platforms through like being on the other one when he was about to jump over to it. So because of that, we lost quite a good amount of time to just the RNG not being particularly nice. Now, you may have noticed here that I started this warp room not with the first level in it, and there's a reason for that. Normally, the third mask form is slower in most forms of movement, but when you're on the hanging grids that you saw at the end of the eel deal, Crash actually moves much faster in third mask form. But but the first mask box in that level, number 16 hanging out, well, there's only one mask box that's that's in a place where you could take advantage of it for that. So because of that, we need to try and bring 2 masks into that level. I did this level first because this is the one that I have the easiest time generally keeping 2 masks out of, although we need that. Although we lost one of them and there only are those 2 mask boxes in the level, so I am going to have to try doing one of the other levels before hanging out. Also, about the exploding things that the flowers throw. If you're spinning when you're in their explosion, the explosion doesn't hurt you. Although, I think you'll see a lot more examples of that in level 20 Behaving, which generally is the level that I do last in this warp room. So normally I would have brought 2 masks out of here and would do Hanging Out next, but instead I'm going to do Ruination, the second Ruin level. There are actually 3 masks to pick up in this level, and one of the common things in this is that it has a lot of box arrangements similar to the ones in Road to Ruin, but with a nitro mixed in. So it's a way to trip up the unwary player. There's a mask up there, which I missed. Well, there are more masks later in the level. But I wanted to get that just to be extra sure that I was going to bring 2 masks out of this, because I really want you to all see what third mask form in Hanging Out looks like. For similar reasons, I didn't feel like chancing trying to get to those platforms when... for some reason, that mask there is not in a box. And there we go. We're bringing 2 masks out of one of the other levels, Ruination in this case, so that we can do the Hanging Out invincibility. Yeah, there's one of those blowtorch enemies right away. And it's rather unfortunate the number of times that I've started neutral slide spinning and hit it. So this first hanging grid, I just have to deal with at normal speed and deal with the cycle movement of those. But then we're going to get to that mask box. And for this part, crawling while in third mask form actually is faster than walking, but here we go with the super third mask form speed along these grids. And since we don't really have much need for that second mask now, we'll just use it to go through those nitros without hitting the switch and waiting. And here we have Cold Hard Crash. This is the last snow level. And this level, well, some of the levels before have had death routes, but this one has one that we're actually going to take. A death route is a side route of the level that's led to by a platform with a skull and crossbones on it. The platform only appears if you've gotten to that part without dying. Alright, carefully not getting the third mask there. And the reason we actually take the death route here is that it is faster than than going through the main part of the level. There's a lot of ice. Also a lot of nitros. And there's also that gem at the end. Generally I jump over it, but I found that doing that causes me to occasionally in 100% runs forget that it's 100% and also jump over it. And there's a checkpoint right after, so your run through that level is then ruined. But this will cost a little bit of time in the warp room there. Because you'll see Crash do one of these animations for the gem also. Oh, here's another level with beehives. I probably should have talked a little bit about how those work in Hanging Out. But every beehive has a zone that generally leading up to a pit soon after it. And if you're in it, bees will come out of the beehive and chase you. Now, the bees in this level move much faster than the ones in Digging It. So on that red ground, which also did exist... Oops, which also did exist in Digging It, if you spin on it, Crash burrows just under the ground, and the bees cannot hurt Crash in that state. But that takes a little while and is slower. There's spinning over one of those explosions to not get hit by it. Anyway, the bees move faster in this level, so normally you have to use an upcoming patch of diggable dirt and get under it and let the bees pass, but neutral side spinning is fast enough that you still remain ahead of the bees. Except in this one. Although as soon as the animation starts, the bees can't hurt you. Ideally, you want to hit one of the bees into the nitro switch so that you don't have to deal with it afterwards. But this will bring us to boss number 4. Engine. And in this fight, instead of spinning, pressing the square button will fire Wumpa Fruit. And in phase 1, you have to hit each of the hands 10 times. I'm making sure I'm keeping track of the number of hits I delivered so that I could get both of the hands at roughly the same time. Because if you only get one, that wastes some time, because it also gives some extra health to the other hand. Alright, 1, 3. Then the same applies to the shoulders. Oh, I was one hit away on the right. So that's gonna lose a little time because Engine has to go through another cycle for that missile launcher to become sufficiently well, for me to get enough chances to do that. And that brings us to phase 3. And since Crash doesn't really have an animation for throwing the firing the Wumpa Fruit, I like to face away just because he even starts going into his idle animation. It is possible with exactly the right mashing to do Phase 3 in a single cycle, but that is not something I want to go for in this type of setting. At the final warp room, we don't really have any reason to do the levels in an alternate order, so we'll do these in order. Now this level... This is a very... This is a very annoying level in 100%, because it has a death route in it that you have to... that contains a level exit in it. So you have to go forward in the main part of the level to break all the boxes in it, and then backtrack to the death route platform without dying. And there are some really tricky jumps when you're doing this area in the reverse direction. And if you get hit by one of the shield pushes, you get knocked back a little bit and the lab assistant moves towards you. But sliding or spinning works against them. Actually, with NSSing you can multiple hit them. Alright, 4 levels to go, and yeah, this last warp room actually has 2 pairs of 2 level themes that... What? I have never seen that happen before. Anyway. Yeah, this is Rocket, the first of 2 jetpack levels. And this is actually brings us to another thing that makes PAL faster. Once we get to the type of enemy in question, which is that one. Normally you have to hit those twice to put them into the field at the end and kill them and dissipate the field and be able to go through. And on NTSC, like just gunning it after the first hit will get you hit by him again, but that is not the case in PAL. I am not in any way sure what exactly it was that happened at the beginning of the level, but I guess I somehow clipped through the floor. And here's a level that's all in the dark. Hitting the Firefly keeps a source of... it stays with me for a limited time, which is generally just enough to get to the next one in casual play. But since we're moving significantly faster than any intended movement, you'll see that I keep the Fireflies somewhat into the area where I would have the next one. This is the only dark level that we see in any percent, but there's one in the secret warp room that 100% has to do. And it has some... there are some nasty things about it, such as body slam boxes that you've gotta either blindly grope forward to try and get, because breaking them slows you down enough that you will not make it to the next Firefly, or you gotta know well enough where the pits are afterwards that you can do that part blind. And here's Pack Attack, the second jetpack level. We did not clip through the floor at the beginning this time. With the way some of the boxes are placed, these levels can also get somewhat annoying and 100% with having to make sure you hit all of them while still moving forward at a good speed. Also, this level goes a lot heavier on the nitros. But it's at least nice enough to provide a mask. Pal wins again. Yeah, depending on, at the end of this, it can be hard to avoid both the mines and the wire. But they weren't in a particularly bad arrangement there. And that'll bring us to the last level, Spaced Out. Another one of the style of piston it away. I thought about going for that. Oop, I slid too early. If those things have not gotten completely into the arms raised position, then attempting to slide or spin into them will kill you. Also, the shield guys, sometimes you hit them into pits, sometimes you hit them into nitros. And when you're hitting them into nitros, you gotta be careful you don't get caught in the explosion. Those, like the enemy I just killed there, given that those have dangerous necks, and that's why you normally have to slide them, it's interesting that sliding will also kill them from the top. And that will be our 25th crystal, so we can now fight Cortex. And this is probably one of the most anticlimactic Cortex fights of any Crash game. Time will be when I deliver the third hit. 1. So all you gotta do is avoid the rocks and hit them when you're close enough. Get ready on time.
I got you.
And time. That was a gold split, by the way.
Awesome. I got 49.15 on my clock.
Crash Bandicoot!
All right. Oh, that's Crash 2 any percent no-go.
What happened to Cortex? And what about the Cortex Vortex? It's still up there.
Really good run all around, man. That was really entertaining. Really enjoyed myself with that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for letting me do this run.
Anything you want to sign off on? You good?
Yeah. Good luck to everyone else.
All right. Thank you so much.